the road again. We can't wait to get on the road again. Telling stories to our family and our friends. We can't wait to get on the road again. On the road again. We can't wait to get on the road again. Telling stories to our friends. We can't wait to get on the road again.
Welcome to our monthly AAA podcast, Affinity, Allie, and Annette, on the road to good storytelling, with your hosts, Allie Spooner and Annette Morey.
Welcome. I'm Allie Spooner, and I write with Affinity. And with over 30 published titles, I touch on many genres, from romance to paranormal. I have numerous titles, or numerous series, and lately I have focused more on teaching myself to write short stories and standalone books. I hope you enjoy our podcast and have an opportunity to meet some authors new to you or learn more about your favorites. We appreciate your support and invite you to visit Affinity Rainbow Publications to check out our books.
And I'm Annette Morey, also an author with Affinity Rainbow Publications. I'm pretty sure I've settled into a kind of quirky brand and an unconventional style of writing that definitely gives my publisher some fits. After 30 published novels, I still feel like I have a lot to learn from others, even new authors, so that's great. And I hope that our guests will help us illuminate some of the topics with writing and put that out for the universe. I've been very fortunate to have a small but loyal reader base and surprising recognition on some of my novels.
Each month, we'll invite a special guest to join us as we discuss various topics of interest to writers and readers. We'll invite our guests to do a short reading and then follow with questions on the featured topic, while encouraging them to do at least one giveaway to our audience.
This month, we'll be inviting, we're introducing a brand new author to Affinity Rainbow Publications to our family, Mia Barnes, who will be doing a reading from her brand new debut novel, The Strength Within.
Following our podcast, we'll upload to a newly created YouTube channel, and hope you consider subscribing so you never miss a future podcast.
Let me introduce Mia to you. Mia spent nearly 2 decades empowering others in a rewarding career. By empowering others, she found the strength to pursue her dream of writing and earned her master's in English and creative writing. Although she has been writing for years, it was during grad school Mia discovered a love of fiction writing. As a sapphic author, she likes to create robust characters to tackle different social issues, past and present. When Mia isn't working on a project, you can find her hiking with her German Shepherd or kayaking with her partner and friends.
So, without further ado, you're on, Mia. Take it away.
All righty. Thank you. When I got home, I grabbed an ice-cold bottle of my favorite beer and headed to check out my emails. I made it to the couch when the doorbell rang. Ugh, I looked at the clock. It was 5:30. I wasn't expecting anyone. A vaguely familiar face was smiling at me when I opened the door. When I didn't respond, she frowned and said, "You've forgotten, haven't you?" "I'm sorry, can I help you with something?" I wasn't sure I wanted her to answer. "Oh, for the love of Christ, child, I'm your Aunt Marla," my mother's sister, whom I hadn't spoken to since my grandmother's death. Although I briefly recall her staring at my friend and me at my grandfather's funeral, she looked old and broken. Nothing like the cigarette-toting loudmouth drunk I remember. "The ladies at Daddy's church said you were here writing something for some fancy magazine." Marla paused and looked around, seemingly out of breath, as she leaned against the porch railing. "The lady 3 houses down from us," she struggled to breathe, cleared her throat, and began again. "Said that a writer was staying in her house, so I just put 2 and 2 together." She smiled at me with a grin that made me feel a little ill. At that awkward moment, I invited her to sit on a porch chair. As she sat down, she said, "Boy, it's hot as hell today." I wasn't about to invite that woman into my house. Maybe the heat would keep her from overstaying her welcome. Bella lay down by my feet and didn't take her eyes off Marla. She started talking about life, hers mostly, with a tone that got all over me. Me and your uncle live in that same shitty old house down at the old mill. As she paused, she started coughing. I thought of that mill and remembered the odor that used to come from it. She continued. Well, they tore the mill down after old man Milberg died. After that, the neighborhood went to hell and all those people lost their jobs. Now the blacks have moved in and taken over the neighborhood, she rambled on. It was all coming back to me, the reason that woman disgusted me. One of these days, the walls are going to fall in on me when that damn train goes by, she grumbled. Fred is the same old bastard he always was. Constantly complaining. He's a crippled old man that sits in his chair day in and day out, barking off orders. She started coughing again. It seems the years of smoking had caught up with her. Can I get you some water? I asked. She nodded. As I walked through the house to the kitchen, I contemplated how to end this misery. I handed her a water when I returned to the deck. Oh, thank you, dear. Your dog looks at me like she wants a piece of me. Nah, she doesn't bite. Oh, well, that's good. Her tone was broken. She was pitiful, but I lacked empathy for the woman. I'll never forget the way she stood back and watched the things my mother did. She finally caught her breath and continued her rant about how crappy her life was and how her kids were worthless. Your cousin Julie got married and she had some kids. She let herself go and lays around in the same clothes all day. She got fat from all that food and her house is always nasty. Well, that husband of hers got tired of it and got caught with the blacksmith's daughter. She shook her head. And then she said, he took the kids and married that girl in no time. They moved away. Now your cousin's shacked up with some bum doing nothing with her life. And I don't get to see my grandkids. She attempted to make a sad face, but her coldness was too present to have made it believable. She looked around and she said, you've done good, kid, doing your writing for that fancy magazine. Some people at the restaurant were talking about that book you wrote about the lost girl. They said it's real good, but you know, I ain't good at reading. They also said you must have a lot of money with that book and all. She paused for a second, then said, you know, most people were shocked. They didn't think you'd make it, you know, because of your mom, the way things were your mom. They didn't think I'd make it. The hell? I didn't respond. I had nothing to say to this woman. The awkward quiet was way too much. So, Sammy, is it true what those people say? I don't know what you're talking about or who they are. Or who are they? I asked in an aggravated tone. I braced myself for what would come out of her mouth next. Well, someone heard the lady at church saying that you're going to go to hell because of being queer, she said with a near whisper. And they say, I interrupted her. Look, I don't want to have this conversation with you. With a tone of desperation, she said, your ma, she said you hated us. She hesitated and said, we knew your ma wasn't good to you, but what are we supposed to do? She hissed. We couldn't feed you too, and I know ma and daddy could have. I put my hand up. I stood. This is where it would end. I wasn't going to allow her to bash my deceased grandparents. That's enough, and I do not hate you. I do not think of you, and frankly, I have no desire to know you. I walked toward the front door. As I put my hand on the knob to go inside, I turned to her and said, you can leave now. I opened the door. Come on, Bella. Bella ran inside. You don't have to be rude, for Christ's sake, she said as she stood up, paused, and asked, suppose you could help me, an old woman out? I walked into the house, closed the door, and locked it. The woman nauseated me, and she would never change. I watched her hobble to her car. She was pathetic. I sat on the couch and pictured Marla watching my mother hurt me. Her visit incited memories that rushed through my head. That's it.
Very good. Great.
That's good.
Thank you.
So, I don't know when. I don't know that we've been given a release date for your novel. Do you know when it's expected?
I think we're looking at spring of 2024.
Spring of 2024. Great.
I believe. Yeah.
Good deal.
All right.
All right. Well, great. So we are super excited to invite you to our family and to introduce you to the readers out there. So tell us a little bit more about yourself, the stuff that isn't in the bio, the juicy stuff.
Thank you all for having me. I so appreciate you guys and Affinity and Annette. I appreciate you and all you've done. So I grew up in rural Michigan on a small horse farm. I rode horses a lot. That's what I did. I was painfully shy. Writing was my escape. It was something I did because it was kind of lonely on the farm. We're out in the middle of nowhere, so the animals, and I'd write. I entered some contests and stuff, but life happened, and pursuing an education or my dream of writing seemed like it didn't make sense, because I had a family support. I was a single mom. So
Yeah.
I found a career that helped pay my bills, and that's where I went. I wanted to fulfill my need to help others, and eventually it led to me being brave enough to try to do my own thing once the kids were gone.
Yeah.
COVID turned so many things upside down, including my career of 2 decades. So, but it put in front of me the opportunity to dedicate more time to writing, and that led me to you guys. So
Well, thank
Well,
you.
that's all.
that's pretty much it.
Yeah. What prompted you to write your first novel? Where did the idea come from?
Well, I was living the dream. I never thought, what am I going to do with this? And the other thing is, a good portion of the original manuscript was a thesis for grad school. So I had to write like a 30-word thesis, and it had to be a fictional piece. So I started writing this, but when I graduated, I was like, I'm going to take this somewhere. So that's when I completed it. And I spent about 6 months, writing the rest of it. And then I started deciding what I was going to do.
Okay.
It's a scary world out there. You're handing over your baby, when you hand over your first manuscript. I know you ladies know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I sure do. Yeah. So, you talk about that you grew up on a farm and horses and stuff, and I saw some of that definitely in the novel. But what made you choose, or what prompted you to write a sapphic novel? Because that is definitely
That's just the that's just
subject.
the direction it went. My characters, I know later we're going to talk about a pantster or a plotter. I'm definitely a pantster. And, I didn't have any idea that it would be a sapphic book, but as the characters grew and, I felt the connection when I was writing it. It's so weird. It's like you get to know your characters in a very intimate way. So,
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, definitely.
Absolutely.
So it just kind of naturally fit in that category. And that, for me, that's, I love my characters. So
Do you think that your future novels will remain sapphic, or are you wanting to do mainstream, or are you going to stick with sapphic, do you think?
I think I'm going to stick with that. I love how Strength Within turned out. I just absolutely love that story, and I'm already working on something else. So I'll probably just let it play out however it plays out. But I think my characters are probably going to, remain LGBT. So
Yeah, good.
Yeah. Good. How did you find Affinity Rainbow Publications, and why did you decide to go with Affinity?
Well, to be honest with you, the website, it made it clear that you guys were all about the author's voice, and that was very important. And you give control, throughout the whole process. You guys involved the author, and it said that on the website. So I thought, I'm going to try this. I'd sent out about 50 literary, and then I found you guys. So I sent out about 50 query letters, and then I was scrolling through and I saw you guys, and I'm like, I'm sending it here. I have a feeling, and it just came up.
So you'd never see, so it's interesting. You'd never read anything from any of the other Affinity authors before
I had not. I have now.
Oh,
but I had not at that time.
Yeah.
That's
interesting because,
And Allie, I love your new series, by the way. And I watched your interview, and I love those twins. I just have to say.
I do too.
Yeah. Yeah, Allie's one of the more popular authors with Affinity, probably the most popular author with his Affinity. When I first submitted, I submitted because I had read mostly Allie's stuff, but also Julie J.M. Dragon, who's our publisher. She and Aaron O'Reilly wrote a series that I absolutely loved. If you want to check it out, it's called When Hell Meets Heaven. It's a great series. It's an older series, but they also wrote Julie wrote another series that was really good. So I knew them, and I was incredibly tongue tied to talk with them because I was fangirling all over these people. And then the first GCLS that I went to with Allie, I was totally fangirling over Allie. But the first stupid thing I said was, "Gosh, I didn't realize you were so short."
Whoops.
Yeah. Hey. Okay. So what advice would you give to new authors looking for a publisher?
Research. There is a lot of spam out there. It's unbelievable. Just with trying to find a publisher, and find a publisher that fits you. I mean, I did have another offer or another, whatever, but a proposal, I suppose. And I turned it down because I knew that I felt more at home here. So find a publisher that you're comfortable with and watch out for the scammers because once you put your feelers out there, I swear all of a sudden you start getting emails. Hey, we're interested in your book. Well, publishers don't generally go looking. So
yeah.
So just watch that and make sure, that whoever you're going for is reputable.
Yeah, that's
because
true.
There's a lot. I had no idea. I had no idea. I didn't know all the genres because for me, even with music genre, I don't even pay attention. I just, if I like it, I like it, kind of thing. So I had no idea.
Yeah,
so, and I'm so glad I found you guys because you guys are like a needle in a haystack. So
you see so many out there now, send me $500 and we'll publish your book. And it's
yes.
No.
For $300 or for $3,000, we can publish your book, but you'll have to do everything else.
Yeah. The minute that you that somebody says you have to pay anything, then you should run the other way, because
exactly.
if you go with a publisher, you don't pay anything. They are the ones that pay all the costs for cover, editing, everything else like that. And in exchange, they, obviously take a cut, but that's usually the deal with reputable publishers.
Yeah, I agree. So that's my advice. Just make sure you research and don't get yourself in a mess.
Yeah.
There are good publishers out there still. So
there are.
And never quit. You're going to get those rejection letters. We've all had them. And, that's going to spur you to keep going.
Well, and also, you have, I know that I know this because we've been working together, but you had a similar experience to me, which was that there was work to be done before even a contract, and the willingness of Affinity to work with brand new authors to get it to the point where before it even goes to the editors was really nice.
It's invaluable. And I can't thank Affinity enough because not only did I get this chance, but you guys made me feel comfortable and it made me feel like my work was worth something, because that was the hardest part for me in this whole process, is believing that my work was good enough to put it out there. Insecurities played with my head.
Yep.
So that's my other advice. Like Allie said, don't quit. Just keep, because you're going to get more no's than you are yeses. So
absolutely. And I sympathize with your nervousness about book one, and it doesn't get any easier.
I bet.
February will be book 40 for me, and I still go the nervousness is, is it going to be well accepted? Is it good enough? Is this, those kind of
Yeah.
things. So that part doesn't get any easier, but
Oh, well, that's good to know.
yeah,
It's like
yeah.
public speaking. You're always going to get nervous. I've been doing that for years, and I still, as you can tell, get nervous. Voice gets shaky. So I
Well,
get it.
Annette and I have been around for quite a while, and we send each other stuff all the time to look at, and we think, "Oh, this is just a piece of crap," and it's like the other of us will read it and say, "No, keep going," and it eventually turns out to be a decent product. So have faith in your ability, have a strong voice, and make your words be heard.
I used to in my process send to a bunch of beta readers, to get feedback. And I actually don't do that anymore now. I use Allie pretty much
Yeah.
Predominantly as my beta reader, but it is helpful. I think in the beginning, it was very helpful for me to send to beta readers to just sort of get their perspective.
Yeah.
Beta readers aren't there for editing or anything like that.
Or grammar or any of that.
Right.
No, that's not their purpose. Their purpose is to read it and say, is this a book that would resonate with people? Is this a book that's worth publishing? And it's interesting when you use several different beta readers, and you can also use sensitivity readers too if you're dealing with characters that are persons of color, or for me, I might, if I ever wrote a book with a trans person character, I would probably get a sensitivity reader for that. But it just gives you feedback from other perspectives, which has been pretty helpful.
Yes.
But yeah, use the other authors, because we're pretty good about helping each other out there.
Absolutely, yeah. Tell us about your writing experience from start to finish. What was the most challenging part of writing this first novel?
Not giving up. Not feeling like, oh, nobody's gonna like this. What was I thinking? You know what I'm saying? That was definitely the most. Writing for me is just kind of a natural thing. I've been doing it forever, just never did anything with it. So the writing is joyful for me. I enjoy it, but yeah, the part was bad for me. It was just keep thinking nobody likes it, because I didn't have anybody read it once I got past grad school. So Annette was probably the first, well, maybe Julie, to put her eyes on it since then. But yeah.
Okay.
So I think that's it. And just nerves, there's vulnerability in the book, in the character, and you're nervous that people will feel that, or understand what she's going through. I hope that I was able to do it in a sense that they feel what she feels, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I think you did an excellent job with it. It's a hard topic.
Yeah, I sent it to Allie. She read it, and just to let you know, she sent back, "Oh, this is a really good story."
Oh, thank you. That means a lot to me, because you guys are definitely good. So.
What was the biggest lesson from this process? Anything that you would do differently?
Not kill the project before it's got a chance to be seen. I almost didn't send it, but just don't give up, I guess, was the biggest lesson for me. If it means something to you and you truly believe in your work, then send it out there. It's worth it. It's worth the scary.
Yeah, it really is. And just to share a little bit of my background, I had cancer in 2010, and up until that point, I had just kind of been playing with it as a hobby. And when I got that diagnosis, it's like, okay, I have an expiration date. So if I'm going to ever be published, I need to, get off the proverbial pot and get started. And it's the best thing I ever did. I have really, really enjoyed the writing process. And
you can tell, definitely, your guys' books are awesome. So I'm honored to be a part of your family. So, and Annette has been instrumental in helping me. I mean, 2 years of grad school, I learned more in the 6 months that Annette and I worked together than I learned in 2 years of grad school. So
absolutely.
And it's stuff that I'll take forward. Now when I write, that stuff you told me sticks in my head.
Yeah.
So it,
Yep.
you know,
And you'll learn more. Every
Yeah.
every editor that you have, that, I mean, that's for me. You know, I learned from Allie, I learned from editors, I learned from every person that sort of lays eyes on something and gives you feedback. You remember that, or I do.
Yeah, I definitely do. It's interesting because I laugh a little when I write, because I think when I come up, I'm like, oh, nope, not that, so.
Well, have you
But
made yourself cry yet?
yeah, a little bit.
Okay.
What was it? Well, I'm sorry, I missed that. What was that? Did you ask?
I asked her if she's made herself cry yet.
Oh,
over
made
a-
herself cry yet.
Yeah.
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 Somebody
Yeah.
once said you should take your characters out to dinner. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
But you really do need to get to know your characters, and that was the interesting part for me. Is actually, I felt like I knew. Well, I created the person, so obviously I knew. But you know what I'm saying? It's so
Right.
fulfilling to be able to do it, and people understand your characters,
Yeah.
or like your characters.
Yeah.
I did have one character in my first draft that I had to eliminate because she seemed very boring and wasn't going anywhere. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I cut her right out.
Yeah.
Sometimes there are characters that you create, though, that you actually don't like, and that's true life. You know, people
Yeah.
aren't perfect, and so creating
Right.
characters that have a little bit of balance where they're not perfect and they're slightly unlikable, if at the end they become likable, that's really a good progression to make.
Right.
And I tell you, you know, there's only been a couple of times I've written something that actually made me cry. But boy, there's a couple of books that Allie's written, or a couple of things that she's written, and I ugly crying. The last one she sent me, I was like, oh man, just ugly crying.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And that's just it's a confidence booster that the reader has felt the emotions that you put into your words, and
Yeah.
they
Yes,
understand
that's
where you're
yes.
coming from an author's perspective. And it's hard to let go of your characters.
Yeah, I
And-
bet it is. I know. Is that why you guys do the series?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm the world's worst. I never write the end at the end of a book, because I know
You're
these
gonna
guys
keep
are going to
going.
show back up.
Yeah,
It may be a few
awesome.
years down the road, but they're going to show back up somewhere. So,
That's-
it's just, and it's hard to say goodbye.
I get
It
it.
is.
I totally understand it. You become very invested in your characters, for sure.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I didn't set out to become a series writer. I got sort of talked into it, and then decided I liked it. I don't know. So, Mia, how do you build tension in a story without giving up too much? You know, how did you go about
I
doing
think for me, it's in the showing, not the telling. Because it's hard to build tension when you're just telling, but if you're showing it
Mhm.
to your readers, that helps build that tension, in my opinion. But
Okay.
doesn't give it away. You're just dropping little things in there that will help them. They want to know, they want to keep reading, because does that make sense? Showing instead of telling?
It does. And
Yeah.
I tell you, as a writer, that is the hardest thing to do. For me personally, that has been the hardest thing to do, is instead of doing a data dump, the showing versus is telling. And it's I think the best writers do that really, really well. And it's a struggle for me personally, to tell you the truth. It's something that I have to work on all the time, showing versus telling.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is definitely that usually comes in my second draft. Because I like to just write, and then go back through. And in my second draft, that's where I tend to show it more than tell it. I'll change it up. Just because for me, I feel like it does more, it, and probably somebody said something to me and it always stuck with me, because that is definitely something that I learned along the way. So
Okay. What kind of conflicts and complications are your favorite to write?
I prefer the ones that have a resolution, but life isn't like that all the time. So, some of the conflicts I struggle with this a little bit and the strength within, because um, there's a couple of conflicts that get a little violent, which I'm not necessarily a fan of, but it was so important to the protagonist's story to have those stories told. So, and there was a resolution for the readers. There will be a resolution.
Yes, there were some parts in your book that were there that are tough. It's interesting. I didn't put this down as one of the questions, but there's often dialogue out on Facebook about, do you put a trigger warning or not on a book? And I it's a tough decision. It's a tough topic because, I'm sensitive to the fact that some readers have triggers that can be very damaging to them.
Yes.
At the same time, sometimes I often struggle with the fact of, well, there are so many things that could be triggers. How do you know? And, then are you just putting a trigger on your books for every book that you do? It's a tough spot. So had
you definitely don't want your stuff to trigger people.
Yeah. So is that something that you've thought of, that, should I put a trigger warning? Should I not put a trigger warning? Or
it's definitely something to think of and maybe talk with JM about, because, I definitely don't want it to trigger anybody. That definitely wasn't the intent, but and I contemplated taking it out, but it just does not fulfill that story of the character's story. It doesn't, without those scenes, I don't feel like it's,
I agree. And it wasn't just, I think the scenes were written well. They weren't like just gratuitous violence or, just whatever. They were written in such a way that it wasn't so graphic and unneeded. But I agree with you. I think those scenes, if you'd have cut them out, I don't think your book would have been as impactful.
Yeah, and I think there's some things that you can do when you get ready to write your blurb that will give a prospective reader, a little bit more about the topics that you cover.
Right. Yes, that's true. Yeah.
How much research do you do for a book?
It depends. If it's something way out of my wheelhouse, I definitely find myself falling into a rabbit hole researching so many times. But for example, a gunshot, without knowing how it feels, it's really hard to give a descriptive narrative for your character if you don't know how it feels. So I kind of went out and read some testimonies. I actually knew somebody that had been shot in the leg, and I asked them if they could tell me how it felt. I was very sensitive to them, but and he was totally willing to. But so for me, that kind of thing, I think you have to research, because fortunately, I don't know how it feels. And Annette and I talked about that a little bit too, is some of this stuff, how does that feel? I'm kneeling in gravel. How does that feel? Do I have to go kneel in gravel to see how it feels, kind of thing. So
physical research.
That's it. Physical research is what you call it.
Yeah.
One of the things that it really began to pull me into the story is your description of the Milwaukee area. I actually worked up there for about 1.5 years, and some of the descriptions of places that you used was very familiar and very comforting, and it's just like, yeah, she's been there.
Yeah. Research is now that you've done this research on what it feels like to be hit by a gun, you're on a list now, right?
Oh gosh. Yeah. I hope not.
Just kidding.
I know.
Clear those search browsers.
Yep.
Yeah, no doubt. Because if they were to look, if somebody were to take my computer and look at what I searched, they'd probably be very concerned about what I'm doing. But it's really off of my book.
Yeah.
So I know that there is some parts of this novel that are based on personal experiences. Obviously, you grew up on a farm. The character grew up on a farm. But how much of this book is based on some of your own personal experience?
Well, let's just say they're kindred spirits. I grew up in a small farm in middle of nowhere. Most of the emotions of losing my grandmother too early made it difficult, but yet easy to write that particular scene, but my parents weren't attentive folks at all. You know, I grew up in a farm, and it just wasn't, you know, I think parents back then did the best they could, but it wasn't necessarily a loving feeling kind of thing. So I drew off some of that.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm familiar with addiction,
Mm-hmm.
you know, alcohol specifically. I saw a lot of it, and I don't drink because of that. So,
Wow.
you know, so there
Yeah.
are some similarities,
Mm-hmm.
but mostly it's the emotions I felt in certain circumstances that I used.
Yeah. Good. Huh?
Yeah, you know, because we all have different things we deal with, and so just embodying those emotions, you know, when you're writing it, I think helps. So,
Okay. You've kind of teased to say that you got something else that you're working on. What's next for Mia?
well, I am a huge crime mystery person, so I am taking on my protagonist is going to be a crime scene investigator.
Ah.
And it's going to be kind of a mystery suspense type of book. I've been reading or watching a lot of CSI because
Oh, nice.
getting that, you know, getting familiar with the language and the way the agents talk to each other and that kind of thing, I think is important when you're writing something, because obviously I don't know the terminology and that kind of
Mhm.
thing. So
Mhm.
I've been watching a lot of CSI. So I have it on in the background, not watching. I'm just kind of listening to the way
Yeah.
they converse with each other to kind of get an idea. I
Yeah.
mean, do they talk like we are talking, or they use a lot of terminology, even if they're talking? Just, you
Mhm.
know,
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
that type of thing.
Well,
Okay.
that'll be great. I love those kind of books, obviously.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
write
I'm a
Yeah.
junkie, so I'm
Yeah.
excited about it. I've just started it, so I'm excited.
Okay, so this book is actually a romance that's coming out. You know, it's much more than a romance, but besides it having sort of a romantic component to us, it's so much more than that. You want to give us even a little more about what that is besides the romance that's embedded in?
Well, you know, Sammy had a terrible childhood, and she you know, was going through life trying to overcome that. So as she went through life, she was, you know, I like a character that, you know, finds the strength to overcome things, and that's kind of where she is. She's trying to bust through the ideal that she's some shy kid that, you know, nobody cared about, to, you know, she's some, you know, she can do something with her life. So um I wanted to make sure the character, you know, was able to overcome these things and help other people that are overcoming things as well. So,
Okay.
um,
All right.
you
You're
know, it's a lot about her trying to overcome things, bad relationships. You know,
Mhm.
she had walls 5,000 miles high, type of thing. You know, so um, but yeah, so I don't, you know, I don't know if it'll always be. I think there'll always be a little romantic, you know, storyline there a little bit, but will all of my books be romance? No, I don't think so.
Okay. So because that's another question, so we might as well go with that just a little bit if you don't mind. You said not all of your books will be romance, but they'll have a romantic component to them, all of them,
Yeah,
or not? Okay.
I
So,
think
so
so. You know, I don't know. It's like when I was writing Strength Within, you know, the part where I get to the um you know, to the safe haven, let's just say that. None of that was planned. It was just this bizarre thing. I was thinking about, you know, her laying in her grandparents' room, taking it all in, and then it just clicked. And
Mm.
so then I went off that way.
yeah.
You know, my nonprofit experience helped with that writing. I'm familiar with the nonprofit world, so
Yeah.
that helped me with some of that writing as far as, you know, what you do to start a nonprofit type of thing. So
Yeah.
I don't know. When I go into it, I really don't know. If I do know, it changes. You know, so
Yeah. 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 We get accused of doing romance light sometimes, or light romance, and
yeah,
you know, just it's where the story takes you.
yeah,
Right.
exactly. And that's so weird. I really didn't experience that until this book, you know, because I've written a lot of things here and there. I've wrote some short stories, nothing published, of course, but just kept them because I was too scared to send them out. And,
Mm.
you know, it's weird how as you're writing it, the story just starts unfolding
Mhm.
like in your mind. I don't know how to explain it. I know you ladies know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about, but
Do. Yeah, that's
Um,
I mean, it sounds like you answered our last question, or one of our last questions, or yes, our last question. You're a pantster, just like Allie
yes,
and I.
Yep.
You don't plot it out. The story just you write the story by the seat of your pants. It just evolves. You never know where it's going to take a turn.
yeah.
Um,
And I keep a notebook and I try to write characters' names and birthdays and stuff so I can kind of keep track of that.
mhm.
But that's about the extent of my planning, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
All right. Anything else that you'd like to share
Yeah.
with us about your book or your
no,
writing?
again, Annette, I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate you for your mentoring, and Allie, thanks for, and welcoming me into your family. I really appreciate you ladies, and I am so excited to be a part of the family. So, and look
Great.
forward to what's next. So,
So for those of you out there, don't forget about our YouTube channel and subscribe. We are going to be taking off December because I'll be away, but I don't think there's going to be, besides maybe some Christmas thing, shorts or something that maybe Affinity is going to be doing or re-releasing or something, but there isn't going to be an Affinity novel for December. So we won't be doing a YouTube thing in December, but probably maybe back in February is when we'll kick things back up, is what
Yeah,
it's
January, February. Yeah.
January, February. So we hope to see you down the road. And I'm guessing that we'll probably be able to convince Affinity into giving away one of the free ebook of Strength Within to people who, and I'll have to remember to keep those names so I can pull a name when your book does come out. So make a comment, ask a question after you watch this, and we'll pull a name for a free book. And that's it. Thank you for watching.